Well, there's a massive piece of news that hit the internet late last night having to do with Nintendo and the Pokemon Company finally responding to the mass market success that is none other than Palworld. I haven't talked about this game on the channel yet. I haven't had a chance to check out the game firsthand myself, so that's kind of why I've been holding off. But here it is, flooding with all the headlines because the Pokemon Company has actually made an official response to this, and you're probably familiar with the game being pretty controversial, people calling it Pokemon with guns, even though it plays a lot more like Arc, but clearly you get the reference to Pokemon because just look at the creatures. And I've seen plenty of gameplay for what this has to offer, and it definitely has elements of Legends Arceus, I would say, in there, but it's not really played like a traditional Pokemon game at all outside of that, but it is definitely a mishmash of different style games, Breath of the Wild style controls and mechanics, Arc style survival system, and then your pals, which are the Pokemon reference in question. And we're going to get on the same page with exactly what the Pokemon Company's response to this was, and the reason why it could lead to a lawsuit if they do indeed find anything malicious here. But we'll break all that down. Before we do, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on your bell notification to join Sunbro Nation if you're new here. And with that, we're going to hop right over to Nintendo Everything, where you can see their detailed typed up article typed up around this matter, where it says the Pokemon Company issues statement on Palworld. The Pokemon Company just put out a statement about Palworld, which exploded in popularity this month following its launch. The game has gained a great deal of popularity, but not always for the right reasons. Some have taken issue with just how similar some creatures in that title are to Pokemon. Some have gone as far as to label it Pokemon with guns. Developer Pocket Pair has indicated that it isn't concerned about copyright infringement, but now the Pokemon Company has weighed in. An official statement just went up on its website. Although Palworld isn't referenced directly, it's clear that this is the game being referred to. The Pokemon Company said it will investigate and take appropriate measures to address any acts that infringe on intellectual property rights related to the Pokemon. And the full statement reads as follows: "We have received many inquiries regarding another company's game released in January 2024. We have not granted any permission for the use of Pokemon intellectual property or assets in that game. We intend to investigate and take appropriate measures to address any acts that infringe on intellectual property rights related to the Pokemon. We will continue to cherish and nurture each and every Pokemon and its world, and work to bring the world together through Pokemon in the future." So at this point, it is just the Pokemon Company and in turn Nintendo being very aware of this situation. It's hard not to be aware at this point, just for the fact that the game is now over 8 million copies sold on Steam, and that's not counting the Game Pass sales that I guess are not technically sales, but the amount of Game Pass players that are hopping into this thing right now. It's obviously a commercial mass hit success, and a lot of people have been wondering, well, why did the Pokemon Company and Nintendo not look into this sooner? Clearly we've had the trailer for this game floating around for quite some time, maybe multiple trailers, but I know at least one for over a year plus. And why would the Pokemon Company and Nintendo not step up and do something then? Well, it is entirely possible that it just was not on their radar that it would be this kind of massive success and blowing up to the amount of users that it is, and they're now really wanting to look through this game and the code with a microscope, because obviously significant revenue is being made here, and both Nintendo or the Pokemon Company are not known to just sit on the sidelines and let something play out. Just even recently, within the last 24 to 48 hours, there was Pokemon mods going around online, and a particular user who created those mods sharing the video and things, and didn't take long at all. The Pokemon Company came right after that, made sure that those mods were not being shared around online. Now, sure, you can probably still find them fairly easily, but the videos out there, things referencing it, they don't want that stuff out there. Clearly, the Pokemon Company is not happy about this. But the big outstanding question is, and whether or not there is actual implications, legal implications potentially for Pocket Pair and Palworld, remains to be seen around how they actually got to the designs of these pals within Palworld. If it was something like generative AI, like many are speculating online in terms of how they came up with the designs for these creatures, well, at that point, if Nintendo and the Pokemon Company can indeed prove that their intellectual property was sourced as the generation point for the AI, I don't know exactly how that's going to play out. I'm not going to act like an expert here. AI is obviously very new for everybody in terms of what it can do as of recently. So now that it's being used on a big stage like this and serious money is being made off of it, it'll be very interesting to see if, because there could be some tie-ins to direct property from Pokemon, whether it's different enough or not. That's all going to potentially play out in court, and Nintendo and the Pokemon Company, they hire their lawyers, they do a good job on stuff like this. It is not to that point yet, but it's definitely on the track of Nintendo and the Pokemon Company are looking into it. They're not just going to let things slide if they can prove anything, and if they feel like they can prove anything that is infringing on their intellectual property, they're going to go after Pocket Pair, and we'll have to see how all of this ultimately plays out. But it is quite interesting to see all of the fan interest on this game online. I'm actually really ready to check it out myself just to see what it really has to offer from a gameplay and immersion perspective, because I'm not really into survival simulators like Ark and things like that. I do enjoy my fair share of Pokemon games, and Legends Arceus by far is my favorite Pokemon game in terms of the gameplay mechanics. Really felt like that was a step forward and the evolution of what the formula should become. But there's no doubt a lot of complaints towards Nintendo, Game Freak, and the Pokemon Company around the quality of their games, what they look like and run like, and really the kinds of things that you can do in the world. And while Scarlet and Violet are really fun, enjoyable games, you can argue that this might be a good opportunity for Nintendo, Pokemon Company, and Game Freak to all look in the mirror and say, should we not pump out Pokemon games so frequently and rapidly, and rather really take a step back and design something entirely new, even if it is spin off into just Legends only and that becomes its own thing, but you create this open world with this kind of interaction with other players online, and it really feels like it evolves the Pokemon formula, no pun intended. I think that would be a good step forward. I also don't think this game is exactly one-to-one proof that fans are just asking for this in a Pokemon game, and that's the reason why it's doing the numbers it is, because it doesn't actually play like Pokemon at the core. So it's a little bit of a complex issue, but 8 million sales over the course of 6 days is no small feat. It's breaking all types of records as far as the most concurrent players on Steam. We're just talking about a PC release here. We're not even talking about PlayStation or Nintendo as far as their console install bases being in this conversation at all, and we have no clue what the Game Pass numbers are as far as users playing this thing. So it is a massive, unprecedented, huge success. Pokemon Company and Nintendo and team are gonna definitely be looking into if they have a case here, and I'm all for Palworld sticking around and being somewhat viewed as a competitor to Pokemon games, providing they didn't do anything like directly copy and infringe. And you can say they copied, I mean, let's be honest, they definitely copied concepts from multiple different games, and the Pals are absolutely a Pokemon ripoff. But if they didn't actually straight up one-to-one copy the code and or designs and things from the intellectual property of the Pokemon Company, well, at that point I would like to see the game continue to succeed and build a new fan base and user base. And again, maybe it does provide some kind of healthy competition in the space of a Pokemon style game, even though this doesn't exactly play like that. But maybe it could give the Pokemon Company some ideas to incorporate some of these mechanics that players are gravitating to in mass in their own games, with still keeping the core beloved Pokemon formula that fans have been playing for years and years on end. But that's where I really want to hear from you guys at this point in the video. What do you make of all of this? Do you think we're going to see any next steps from Nintendo and Pokemon Company and Game Freak with some kind of lawsuit coming at Pocket Pair, and that maybe this is going to blow up into a whole bigger thing? Do you think this is just the Pokemon Company kind of acknowledging all the responses and talk online, and they really won't go anywhere from here with a further investigation, and it probably won't make it to any kind of courtroom in your opinion? And are you a fan of Palworld and what you've seen about it so far? Have you played it, and what is your impressions on the game? And lastly, do you think this is a good opportunity for Game Freak and the Pokemon Company to kind of take a look at themselves as far as game development and their structure, their cadence, and how quickly they release games? Or do you think this is truly its own type of game and is just too different to be compared one-to-one with Pokemon games like that? But regardless of your thoughts and feelings on everything we talked about today, I do look forward to hearing from you all in the comments down below before you leave the video, as I do look forward to getting a back and forth conversation started with you all around these topics. Go watch the video on screen next if you haven't already. Also make sure you like, subscribe, turn on your notification bell, and I will see you guys in the next video.